Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and this is the final video number 12 of our Essential of Negotiation series. So in this video, I'm going to wrap up and reiterate some of the key aspects from the other 11 videos and hopefully give you some information that helps make these lessons memorable, but even more important, practical, so that when you get into negotiation situations that you find these tips and tools to be helpful to help you navigate things for win-win solutions. So let me give you the basic 10 best practices for negotiators, and we'll talk about these things a little bit more in depth. So number one is be prepared. Number two, diagnose the fundamental structure of negotiation. Identify and work the BATNA. Be willing to walk away. Master the key paradoxes, claiming versus creating value, sticking to your principle versus going with the flow, sticking to your strategy versus pursuing options, being too honest versus being too closed, being too trusting versus being too distrusting. Number six, remember the intangibles. Number seven, actively manage coalitions. Number eight, savor and protect your reputation. Number nine, remember that rationality and fairness are relative. And finally, number 10, continue to learn from your experience. So let's get started and talk about being prepared. So preparation cannot be overemphasized, and it leads to several advantages. Understanding your own interests and BATNA, analyzing the other party's offers effectively and efficiently, understanding the nuances of concession-making processes, allowing you the ability to achieve your negotiation goals. Preparation should occur before the negotiation begins. Understand your own goals and interests and articulate them skillfully. Understand the other party's communication needs. Good preparation means setting high but achievable outcome aspirations. Plan your opening statements and positions carefully. Over-planning is not a good use of preparation time. Prepare by understanding your own strengths and needs and interests, the situation, and the other party, then adjust promptly and effectively as the negotiation proceeds. So let's talk about diagnosing the fundamental structure of the negotiation. Assess whether you are in a distributive or an integrative negotiation. Choose your strategies and tactics accordingly, as using mismatched strategies and tactics leads to suboptimal outcomes. This leaves money and opportunity on the negotiating table. Remember, negotiations consist of a blend of integrative and distributive elements and phases. Be careful when transitioning between phases, as missteps can lead to confusion or impasse. At times, accommodation, avoidance, and compromise may be appropriate strategies. Identify and work the BATNA. The best alternative to a negotiated agreement, that's your BATNA, is especially important, as this is likely the outcome should an agreement not be reached. Know what your BATNA is relative to a possible agreement and consciously work to improve the BATNA and improve the deal. Without a strong BATNA, you may find it difficult to achieve a good agreement. The other party may try to push you aggressively, and you may be forced to accept an unsatisfying agreement. You need to be aware of the other party's BATNA and identify how it compares to what you are offering. Monitor it to retain your competitive advantage. Remind the other negotiator how your offer relates to their BATNA. Subtly suggest the other's BATNA may not be as strong as they think. So, bottom line is you got to be willing to walk away. The goal of negotiation is a valued outcome, not just an agreement. Strong negotiators are willing to walk away if the following happens. No agreement is better than a poor agreement. When the process is so offensive that the deal isn't worth the work, when they don't trust the other party to follow through. Negotiators can focus on an agreement and lose sight of the real goal, which is a good outcome. Compare progress with targets set in planning. Compare with your walkaway point and BATNA. Continue to compare progress and be willing to walk away. Even without a good BATNA, you should have a clear walkaway point in mind where you will halt negotiations. Master the key paradoxes of negotiation. Negotiation embodies a set of paradoxes, and strong negotiators strive for balance when facing these challenges. Claiming value versus creating value. Sticking by your principles versus being resilient enough to go with the flow. Sticking with your strategy versus opportunistic pursuit of new options. Being too honest and open versus being too closed and opaque. Being too trusting versus being too distrusting. There's a natural tension in choosing one of the alternatives in a paradox. The best approach is to attempt to strike a balance. So let's talk about claiming value versus creating value. All negotiations have a value claiming stage, and many also have a value creating stage. The skills and strategies appropriate to each stage really are quite different. In general terms, distributive skills are useful in the value claiming stage, and the integrative skills are useful in the value creation stage. Typically, the value creation stage precedes the value claiming stage. A challenge is to balance emphasis on the two stages and the transition between them. One way to manage the transition is to publicly label it. Manage this paradox will require an overemphasis on the discussing the value creation dynamics early in the process. So you've got to stick by your principles versus being resilient enough to go with the flow. Negotiation pace and flow can change, often creating a second paradox. Effective negotiation requires flexible thinking. On the other hand, you should not easily abandon your core principles. Effective negotiators are thoughtful about the distinction between issues of principle where fairness is essential and issues where compromise is a route to an accountable outcome. So, sticking with your strategy versus opportunistically pursuing new options. New information frequently comes to light during a negotiation. Manage the paradox between sticking with your prepared strategy and pursuing a new opportunity that arises during the process. This is a challenging paradox because new opportunities may be Trojan horses harboring unpleasant surprises. The challenge for negotiators is to distinguish phantom opportunities from real ones. It comes with experience. Strong preparation is critical to being able to manage the stay with the current strategy versus opportunism paradox. Well prepared negotiators who understand the circumstances are well positioned to make this judgment and listen to your intuition. If a deal doesn't feel right, it's probably not a viable option. Now let's talk about being too honest versus being too closed and opaque. The dilemma of honesty: how open and honest should I be? Negotiators who are completely open risk being taken advantage of. Negotiators who are closed gain a negative reputation using an ineffective strategy. The challenge is deciding how much information to reveal or conceal. Remember that the negotiation is an ongoing process. Positive progress builds trust and comfort, revealing information. Remember, some information that should probably not be revealed, such as your bottom line in a distributive negotiation. Being too trusting versus being too distrusting. The dilemma of trust. How much trust can I trust? The other party tells me. So, how much can I trust what the other party tells me? If you believe everything the other party tells you, you're vulnerable. On the other hand, if you believe nothing, there's no agreement. Remember that negotiation is a process that evolves over time. Build trust by being honest and sharing information with the other side. This may lead to reciprocal trust and credible disclosure by the other. Moreover, there are individual differences in trust. Some negotiators are more trusting than others, and there's no right or wrong approach to managing this dilemma. Strong negotiators are aware and consciously monitor how they are managing this challenge. Remember the intangibles. Intangibles frequently affect negotiation in a negative way and operate outside of awareness. The best way to identify the existence of intangible factors is to try to see what is not transparently there. Often, negotiators do not learn what intangible factors are influencing the other negotiator unless the other chooses to disclose them. There are at least two more ways to discover intangibles that might be affecting the other. One way is to ask questions. The second way is to take an observer or a listener with you to the negotiation. Remember that the intangibles influence your own behavior. We have to be actively managing coalitions, those against you, for you, and the unknown. Strong negotiators work to capture a strong, supportive coalition. If this isn't possible, negotiators need to work to prevent the other party from capturing a loose coalition for their own purpose. Recognize when coalitions are aligned against you and work consciously to counter their influence. This may involve a divide and conquer strategy. Coalitions occur in many formal negotiations, but also have a strong influence in less formal settings. Managing coalitions is especially important when negotiators need to rely on other people to implement an agreement. Strong negotiators need to monitor and manage coalitions proactively. Savor and protect your reputation. We are all our own brand managers. So, starting negotiations with a positive reputation really is essential, and negotiators should be vigilant in protecting their reputation. Consider these contrasting reputations: tough but fair versus tough and devious. Negotiators prepare differently for each of these contrasting reputations. You can work to shape and enhance your reputation by acting in a consistent and fair manner. Consistency gives the other party a clear set of expectations about how you will behave, leading to a stable reputation. Fairness sends the message that you are principled and reasonable. Strong negotiators seek feedback about the way they are perceived and about the information used to strengthen their credibility. Remember that rationality and fairness are relative. People tend to view the world in a self serving manner and define the rational thing to do or a fair outcome in a way that benefits themselves. Be aware of this tendency in both themselves and the other party, and do three things to manage these perceptions proactively. Question your perceptions and ground them in clear principles. Find external benchmarks and examples that suggest fair outcomes. Illuminate definitions of fairness and reach consensus on which standards of fairness apply in a given situation. Reasonable people can agree. The outcome negotiators can achieve is a common, agreed upon perspective, definition of the facts, agreement on the right way to see a problem, and a standard for determining what is a fair outcome for the process. Finally, continue to learn from your experiences. The best negotiators continue to learn from the experience because no two negotiations are identical. A master negotiator is a person who has a blend of intelligence, attitudes, and skills. In addition, the best negotiators analyze each negotiation after it's concluded to review what happened and what they learned, a plan for a personal reflection time after each negotiation is used, periodically take a lesson from a trainer or a coach, keep track of strengths and weaknesses, and work on weaknesses. If you often negotiate against the same person, record their evolution. Have an analysis uh, on what to focus on and the whys and the how questions. What happened during the negotiation? Why did it occur? And how can I learn from this experience? Well, thank you so much for taking 17 minutes and watching this final video on the best practices for negotiators. I hope that you're taking away some valuable lessons, and I hope you've watched the whole series and found some value in it. Anyway, more than anything else, I hope that you have a great day because only you get to choose how you feel about it. I'm Dr. Paul Gerhardt. Thank you.